Hey, Dice fans. Today on Roll the Dice, we're going back to the hard edged, mud soaked, tape around the head era of rugby league, and we're doing it with a bloke who lived every bit of it. Craig Izzard came out of Blacktown, a footy in his hands, and a reputation for toughness that followed him through 5 clubs and more than a decade in the game. He was captain of the Penrith's 1987 reserve grade premiership side, a team full of battlers, believers, and future first graders, and a few old ones as well. And he led them all the way to a title. But that's not all, is what about Craig Izzard. He played in an era where you didn't ask for a rest, you didn't check the scoreboard, and you definitely didn't count your concussions. And then just when you thought he had them figured out, he packed his bags and took his game to Leeds, stepping into the wild, freezing, beer-soaked world of English Rugby League, a chapter full of stories that only someone who's been there can tell. Today we're talking about footy cards, childhood heroes, the grind of life after the final whistle, and what he makes of the modern conversation around head knocks and CTE, and the moments on and off the field where he had to back himself and roll the dice. This is a story about family, resilience, Western Sydney, and the kind of footballer who never needed the spotlight to make an impact. So, Troy, let's get into it. Let's roll the dice with Craig Izzard.
Craig, welcome to Roll the Dice, mate. I'm really excited to have you on. I remember as a young fella tuning in on a Saturday afternoon on the ABC, watching you run around at the Panthers, mate. So, yeah, it's a bit surreal having you on the pod, mate. I'm really excited and can't wait to hear some of the stories, mate.
Thanks, Troy and Paul. Thanks very much for having me on. I look quite good looking on the screen, actually. I might have to take a little snapshot and put it on my driver's license.
Yeah, if that's anything we've got.
The game certainly was very, very tough. I think light at the same time, you had to work as a job and also play rugby league. So, yeah, I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that's excellent, mate. We're just before we roll the dice, we're going to say a few words about our sponsors. We've got Track Intel. If you want to know anything about the track, you need to download the data from Track Intel on Instagram and Facebook. We've also got the team at Feel Good Collective, which is the Sydney's hottest, newest, and the best gym in Sydney, based in Roseville. We've also got the guys from Glamworm Waste Equipment, the leading Australian supplier of equipment to the waste industry. And we've got a new sponsor on board as a result of Craig, and that's Tony Perino Engineering. So if you've got a fleet breakdown, you've got to ring Tony Perino.
I'll be indebted for him for life. He'll have me doing all the shit jobs now.
You don't know how much back of the house wheeling and dealing I've been doing for the last couple of days to get that sponsor.
I can imagine. It would have been a tough gig.
Yeah, there's a bit of in-house stuff going there, so we'll talk about that later. All right, we might roll the dice. We might get started. You ready, Craig?
Oh, of course. Ready,
okay. Mate, we've landed on number 3. So you ready? Number 3. Be honest, right? I need you to really be honest here, mate. How many Wally Lewis footy cards did a kid have to trade to get a Craig Izzard footy card back in the day?
Back in the day, it was a Wally Lewis and a Brett Kenny similar. You could get 2 Wally Lewises and 2 Brett Kennys for 1 Craig Izzard. Yes, believe it or not. 2 for 1. Wally Lewis, one of the greats. Brett Kenny, who I played against and carried for a long, long time. And 2 for him as well. Other than that, that's the only ones that I have.
You still got some cards, mate?
I've got some cards. I'm going currently on the market at about $2.50.
That's pretty good, mate. That's 1 cent more than $2.49. That's pretty flash.
That's it. Back in the day, you could get a bottle of milk for that.
And we know how much you like your milk.
I love my milk.
Remember, like in all honesty, remember how popular footy cards were as kids. I remember collecting them. We got to a point. I went to Bankstown Primary School. They got banned from school. We were so competitive over footy cards.
That used to be everything in the schoolyard. You just traded football cards. You get a little bit of chewing gum out of it. So I still remember that. I think I might have some chewing gum still stuck to one of me Brett Kenny ones.
Mate, what do you think of the we mentioned Wally Lewis and Brett Kenny, and they had some great clashes in the state of origin and were good teammates in the Kangaroos. But what do you think of the modern game? What do you think of the current origin and in the modern game, really, mate? What's your feelings?
I think it's still a contest. I do understand that the game had to change because it becomes so professional. People make a living of it today. So they had to get rid of a couple of things about the contact, but it's a business nowadays. It's, and there are athletes that perform in it. I still watch, footy that's on telly. I think I'm addicted to it, but it's still enjoyable for me to watch footy on a Friday night or a Thursday night. So, but it's just become a profession, so it had to change.
It had to change. And Craig, when you were at your prime, mate, what was your playing weight? Where did you play?
Well, when I first started at Penrith, I was on the wing and playing at 73 kilos.
Yeah, and that's changed, right? You've got wingers now 105, 110 kilos.
Yeah, 105, and that's without their boots on. So they're monsters now. They're dead set monsters, and some of the feats that they do is unbelievable. But I think I ended up in the back row at about 109 kilos. So, if you look at the back rowers now, they're probably running at 95 to, thereabouts, 90 to 95. But they're machines. They train all the time and, you get that luxury.
Did you put that 30 kilos growth down to beers after the game or meeting the hot dog stand on your way out?
I think I have to be honest here, and I have to say that I'll put that extra weight on because I can eat a packet of Tim Tams during home and away. So I think the Tim Tams are responsible for that extra, lump in the belly.
And let's just quickly go to your big break, mate. Like, was it really an intercept and they thought they got the wrong Izzard?
Yeah, I normally get called Brad, and I just go along with it. It's a part of the game. But I chipped and chased. He couldn't chip and chase. He just ran over people.
Yeah, and you had your younger brother Grant, mate. He had a bigger step than both of you, didn't he?
I think Grant was a better football than both of us, I would say. He went down to the Steelers with me under Graham Murray down there. and he got a few games, but he probably just didn't get that break that he needed. He was very, very competitive, and a true athlete.
Yeah, you went. Mate. I remember Grant as a young fellow when he's, I don't know, he might have been 12, 13. He was playing down at Wenny, mate, and mate, there weren't too many kids who had a step like that. Maybe Brad Fittler at the same age, but he went all right. But let's get back onto you, mate. You want to? I think we might roll the dice, and I know what we've landed on, and this is the big question that we've been waiting for, and this is going to lead into the rest of your career. But this one is probably the big question, and we've landed on one, and it says, look, your captain Penrith's 1987 reserve grade premiership side. How old were you then?
I'd say I was about 20 to 21.
All right, so let's just read this playing roster out. So here's Craig captaining.
Remember that you should never ever bag a champion.
Never bag a champion. I'm telling you, mate, for you to stand out and captain a side that in the forwards you had Tony Butterfield, Jamie Thompson, Darryl Broman, Warren Fenton, Mark Geyer. In the same year, you had Jeff Gerard in that pack. Mate, if you captain that side at the age of 20, 21, Muzza must have loved you, mate. He must have thought you had something going for you as a leader.
Yeah, he knew I was a leader, plus him and I were very, very close. So that helped me a lot. And Darryl Broman tells me all the time, whenever I run into him, how did you get that gig? He reckons he should have been on that gig. But I told him it was about his Japanese fighter pilot headgear that he used to wear. So do you remember that he used to wear the headgear?
Yeah, I do, mate. He
said that's why you're never going to captain the side.
Yeah, because it would have blocked out all the calls, mate. Like, no, he wouldn't have been able to hear anything.
Yeah. No, it was a cracking football side, and I think at the end of the day we won 11-0 against a very, very good Manly side as well. It was the last game at the Sydney Cricket Ground as well.
Wow. That Manly side had players like Chris Close in there, Marty Meredith, Owen Cunningham, and a future Jeff Tuvey sitting on the bench. So, mate, those are the days when the reserve grade grand finals was almost as good as probably some of the first grade semis. They were
some of the first grades again. Yeah, because like I said, back then you could drop. I think they were allowed to drop players back if they got in the reserve grade. So,
from Penrith, you kicked on. To Parramatta. Is that right? Is that how it worked?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I went to Para for 3 years. I had 3 years there.
And got Clubman of the Year in 1990. Look at that.
I think that was by default because the other bloke didn't show up at the presentation, so they just give it to me because I was sitting closest to the award. So come up here, Craig. You can have it.
Yeah, no, but what did you have to do? Like, did you have to mark the lines and what does a Clubman of the Year normally do?
Well, I don't really know. It didn't change anything. I never got any more money. I didn't have to pay for things at the canteen, so that might have been a bonus.
Yeah, outstanding, mate. Not to see you short.
That was a cracking football side, with the likes of Sterlo and Ella, Growth, Kenny, John Muggleton, Michael Mosley. It was a cracking side.
Yeah.
How did that opportunity come about, mate, to go over to Parramatta?
I think at the end when we won the grand final that I don't think Muzzer was staying around either. So I looked for an opportunity, and at the time Parramatta offered it, and I jumped at it, because I then thought, mate, I'm not going to get into this star-studded first grade team, but I was the first starter, which was good,
Yeah. It's that's fantastic, mate. Not to see you short, mate. You played over 151 top class matches, including 130 odd in the New South Wales Rugby League, mate. So that's 151 more than anyone. So many of us. So you do say never knock a champion, and mate, I often have a joke with you, but to be honest, mate, totally respect you, even though you brushed me as a 17-year-old on the hill at Wenny. So, but it's
it was probably Brad. I'm sure it was Brad.
That's I know who it really was, but that's a great call.
I think it was Brad.
All right, we're going to quickly roll the dice, and we've landed on a 2, mate. And we really want to know about your stint in England. What's the story from Leeds that sums up that whole chapter for you?
That was a brilliant time because it was in the off season, and only 3 Aussies could go to an England side at one time. And there was me from Parramatta, Mark Laurie from Parramatta, and the crazy man Craig Coleman from South Sydney. And we went to a Leeds team that was full of internationals with David Ward as the coach, blokes like Lee Crooks, Gary Schofield, Colin Muskell. And it was just unbelievable playing over there. You could say that the weather conditions were not the best, but, it was about the football. The fans loved it. The footballers loved it. It was just a fantastic 5.5 months.
Did with that, have you gone back to Leeds a few times?
I actually went back there 2 years ago. My son was over there, Dylan. He was teaching over there. So I went over at Christmas time, and they had a function over there at the time and presented me with my number. So you had to go down on the ground on the oval, and they'd start the chant in the grandstand. What they chanted when we was playing football. So it was unbelievable. And Gary Schofield and a couple of blokes have come out here since, and we've caught up with them at South Sydney Juniors. There's no beer drunk then.
There was no what?
It was just on intravenous. So it was crazy. They think it's medicine. Them pommies think it's medicine. That's why they drink it. I think Lee Brooks used to take 4 gulps or 3 gulps for a pint, and he would finish it. He was a machine.
Mate, his time at the Magpies was legendary.
And he's a lovely bloke. He's a tough old bastard.
Yeah, well, he was a tough young bastard. He was 18 when he played that 1982 tour, the Kangaroo Tour. When he came up 18 in the front row, mate.
How did you find the difference?
Over there in England, it was good for me. It just, it just got me focused a little bit more. And then when I come back, I got an opportunity with the Steel. I got an opportunity with Balmain first when Alan Jones was coaching, and then I wandered off to the Steelers for 3 years.
Just back at Leeds though, mate, the difference between the Australian game and the English game at that time, did you notice much difference, or was it just still very similar, tough football?
I think it was very similar, very very similar. It's just different conditions. You get that hot conditions or those dry, but over there it's freaking cold, cold, and cold. That was the worst thing. But the football wise, it was end to end sometimes. It was fantastic football. The other thing which was different at the end, at the half time, the crowds would go that way, and this one would go that way, and then they'd be at the end to watch their sides run towards you. So at half time, the crowds would wander down this side and go there, and wander down the other side and go there. It was so bizarre.
You kicked on to Illawarra. Did your time in England turn you from a wide running, gap running, agile back rower into a tough ball playing front row, back row? Is that what really happened to you, or you just lost your pace and sidestep?
No, I think I just focused on my football, and I ended up becoming a lean, mean fighting machine. I don't think it changed me football-wise in the way I played the game, because I got the opportunity again to captain the Steelers down there, again, only because of my association with Graham Murray. And no, I'm not his child. It's okay. Well, we had a cracking side down there at the Steelers too. Paul McGregor, Wishard, Johnny Simons, a great side. Craig Tietzel.
Yeah, that's a really good side, the Steelers.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. They did have it, and we won some football, which was good too. It helped.
Mate, you're only a couple of games short of a few grand finals there. Like you weren't too far off. Mickey Neal was down there as well, wasn't
he? Yeah, Mickey Neal. He's not travelling too well at the moment, I don't think.
Yeah.
Even at Balmain when Jonesy was there, we had a cracking side then. Blocker Roach, Benny Elias, Paul Silverman. Jimmy Jack, a great Gary Freeman. We had a cracking side there, but we would have Balmain go out and play the football, and then as we're walking off, we're getting beat 20-0. So we would go into the dressing shed, and Alan Jones would talk to us, and we'd be going out there thinking, we're going to win this. We're in front already. He just had that motivational speaking that can just get you up.
So how are the old boys days, mate, when you get back to Penrith and Parramatta and how are the old boys days, and how do you turn up to the Illawarra ones?
In what are you pitching at?
Well, there's probably two questions in that. Do you have a lot of fun at the old boys days?
Yeah, I still go. They reckon that because I've got the beard and that I look a bit like Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
What are you laughing at?
No, I'm not.
I think so. Yeah, I can see it.
What
are you trying to pitch at the return to Old Boys Day?
I
I'm
just
on
want to
the
know how much.
horse.
I just want to know how much fun they are. That's all.
Oh, they're fantastic. They're great, you know. But what goes on tour stays on tour.
Well
Well,
played,
that's very
Michael.
cool.
Well played.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I think he was looking for something.
Yeah.
He had his rod out. He had
He's
his
not
rod.
like us. He's not like us.
He,
Do that.
he thinks that little N on his shirt's going to scare me. The Tommy's going to jump out.
You know, trying to. I'm trying to bring back the chicken maws of the world, mate.
No, they're always great. Even any of them. You know, Penrith have a Parramatta do Balmain just started, but they're great to catch up with the blokes, and you know they've all got their stories. And I think it's just a battle of seeing who's good and seeing who's still healthy. Once we get down to there, drink much beer, and we don't we don't watch too much football. I can
No,
assure you, no footy's watched.
good. Excellent, mate. We're on to number 4 here, mate. When the boots finally went away, what was the hardest part of figuring out who Craig Izzard was without rugby league? But you did play in an era where, you had to have a job anyway. But what was it like when you had to hang up your boots?
I think it was. It was tough, but you do have those thoughts about what am I going to do now, But like I said, we had a job to go to, so I at the time went into the police. I was doing policing the last couple of years, but I had a job. But it does have an effect on you. And I think it's just around that mateship thing, or it's around that camaraderie. You want to get back to that group mentality. And I know that a lot of, it's back in our era, there was a lot of focus now on the head injury stuff. So, that's
Yeah,
important now. Make sure that we get across that.
yeah. Well, we'll probably roll that into the fifth question. Is what are your thoughts on CTE and some of the injuries you've had, and are there struggles that you're going through? And I know you've got some pretty close mates that are struggling anyway. So
I think mine are about injuries that I've had to get operations about. I had my knee done last year, a new hip and fused back and things like that. But I see it in other people. I see it in my best mate Jeff Gerard. He's struggling big time, and it's not until people that are close to me are affected by it that I see that and see the person that they've changed into. The game's taking a stance on it, which is fantastic. Is it enough? Probably not, but, what do you do?
Is there support from the current administration around this for former players, mate?
I think there is some support for them, but I think it's about getting that connectivity about this is from you playing sport. I think that's a still messy area. And I think also, the joys of getting old, you lose your memory anyway. I can speak to my children and say, my kids and say, when's that day happening? And they'll say, Dad, we told you 10 times ago. So, do I have some of it? Probably early stages, but you don't know until you're placed in that position.
yeah, mate, it's an interesting Look, it's a touchy subject, and it's even more prevalent right now with the news about Jai. And you don't know. We don't know whether the MND has come on or the MND has been influenced by head knocks. I don't think that the jury's still out on any of it. But do you know what I think? The one thing I struggle with, and being as you know, Craig, the only thing that stopped me from kicking on was a complete lack of dedication and talent. But but
Yeah,
when I
it was my understanding you didn't like that collision stuff.
no,
And you
but
know that
yeah, you're right. But being
that collision stuff makes rugby league players.
yeah, okay. But being
And
a really pretty
you know what you should have also got? Maybe a couple of tattoos to make you a bit of a gangster.
yeah.
Maybe. That's just, I'm putting it out there.
Yeah, but
Tackle and get tattoos, Paul.
yeah, well, being a pretty faced 5'8", they just go for me. They just swinging arms left, right, and centre, and there wouldn't be a match where I wouldn't be concussed.
I think you're still concussed.
We may laugh at it, but my point I was getting at is that, and with all due respect to players who've played professionally and been paid for it, and the rugby league is doing things to try and to look after our past heroes and our past players. But the one thing I sit there and think about it is, the blokes who never quite made it to first grade, and they've still got the same amount of knocks in their playing careers, whether they got to bloody C grade, D grade, or reserve grade, and so we just don't know. We just don't know. Yeah, I missed that. What'd you say there, mate?
I said, where's the help for them?
Yeah, and I'm not asking for help. I'm just saying it's. I think it's deeper than we all think. There's a lot of blokes who, their only solution these days is to have a few beers, and they do like to live on their old memories of being a top little halfback back in the day. And we know the guys. It's tough to relive what you didn't have, but it's tough enough when you're dealing with potentially CTE. So.
Yeah, and I suppose we've identified that it is in the game and it is a cause from, playing the game. And I think it's just a matter of trying to find ways around which, we start wearing headgear. We, like they've mentioned about players not coming off the back fence when we kick off. Things like that. But does that change the game? Does it, I could be walking down the road and fall over and bump my head, and so it's just that we've got to make sure that we identify for the right reasons on why we're doing it.
I think, apart from the fact you pointed out a few flaws in my game, collision is...
Yeah. Shall I continue?
Collision.
2 pages. Sorry about that.
Collision. Collision is probably the biggest thing. I actually think, I just think the 10-metre rule has been probably one of the biggest problems in the game, and I'd love it to go back to the 5-metre rule, because not only will it probably stop the collision, it'll speed up the ruck, and it'll also mean that players actually have to play through the line, and we got some real footy going on. So that's my 2 bobs worth on it all. I think it could be all fixed by dropping the 10-metre rule back to a shorter distance. So what do you think about that?
The only thing I would say for that, for sure, certainly, makes the impact less, but you're still getting that big body, and all of a sudden I'm now tackling only 5 metres. My fatigue for the whole game is cut in half because I'm only having to go back 5 metres and instead of 10, where I'm blowed out. That may be an impact on it as well.
Yeah. No, there's a lot to think about, and the 6 again's made it a lot faster, and I think fatigue. We've gone too far on fatigue. There's teams defending 6. There's teams defending 6 sets in a row, and the good teams can handle that. But back in your day, to defend 3 sets in a row would have been a massive, massive performance.
I would have been on the blind side more often.
Agile back rower you are.
Yes, a back row. Run at me.
All right, we're on the home stretch here, mate. Hey, Troy, have you been counting?
6, mate.
Oh, really? There you go. That's Troy's main job, is to count the numbers, because I was never a good referee.
Can I just ask a question about the naming of the podcast? I should have started it. It says roll the dice. Is that right?
Yeah.
Roll the dice podcast. Yeah, it is. Yes. Where's the dice?
I've been rolling it.
I haven't rolled. I'll just go back in my chair. Where's the dice?
I'll show you. I've been rolling it.
We haven't got smart enough to film Paul rolling a dice yet.
Of course. And then he's asking you about numbers.
Yeah,
so
there you go. Fuck yeah.
Just call it what? Yeah, what's that?
That's a die.
A belt buckle.
The same thing. Yeah, I'll do it again. Ready? That's a 6. There's a 1.
6.
There's my dice.
Yeah, right.
You don't believe I've been rolling it, do you?
I'll give you that.
Yeah. I was almost ready for you. Almost. Number 6, mate. This is the roll of the dice question, mate. Across everything, footy, work, life, what's the moment where you truly rolled the dice, mate?
Yeah, so when maybe I'll get some reference. When you say roll the dice, what does that actually mean?
Taking a big risk in life and turn things around and change what you've done, mate. It could have been during your footy career. It could have been after your footy career. It could have been any time in life, mate. When do you really think you've rolled the dice on something and taken a risk and just gone for it?
I think in my life, and certainly, Paul, where I've been, I probably shouldn't have rolled the dice so many times. In saying that, I'm very, very proud of my 2 boys. I suppose they're an achievement that I rolled the dice, and, they're beautiful human beings. For me to answer that question, I probably can't and don't want to. I just want to be remembered for the good things that I've done, and certainly not the issues that I've had to battle.
Mate, that's probably one of the better responses we've had, in the fact that you admitting that there were times you probably shouldn't have rolled the dice, and mate, and I appreciate the answer. To be honest, it's a top answer, mate. It's outstanding, and the fact that you acknowledge it. It's an outstanding answer, mate. So there.
I've got to live with them now, so other people are impacted from it. Initially, they were, but I've got to put my hand up and say, you know, I had 4 years in the Australian Army, and then went into the police, and you know, it makes you a better man. Those two formulas, but you know, I haven't been that perfect person.
Yeah, good.
Everyone's got a story, mate, and you know, I'll always remember you. Like I said at the start, ABC on a Saturday afternoon, watching you run around at Panthers, mate, and yeah, we really appreciate you coming on tonight. And
No, it's a pleasure, mate. It's a pleasure.
And we definitely owe you a beer, mate. It'd be great to catch up and do that.
Let's do it.
Yeah, well, yeah, we still owe each other a farewell lunch, probably from 2 or 3 years ago, mate. So I think we're arguing over whose shout it was.
We didn't shout the shark, did you?
I think you're wrong there. All right, mate. We're gonna close it up.
To catch up.
Yeah,
And keep punching.
I will.
Stay on, mate. We do thank you for being on. This podcast will come out. It'll be on Spotify. It'll be on Apple. It'll be on YouTube. There'll be snippets on TikTok and Instagram. Roll the dice, mate. Thank you so much, Craig. We've really appreciated you coming on tonight, mate.
It's a pleasure, my friend.
Mate, we'll have a little bit of a chat afterwards, and everybody have a listen to this banging tune. We'll see you next week. Thanks very much, Craig Izzard.
Thanks, guys.
Pleasure. Thanks.
Whispers in the dark, the night ignites. A shadow game under neon lights. Step into the room, heart beats like a drum, fate's on the edge.